Hello friends, Anderson here, and the bad news first. I do not have an Ironsworn video for you today because while I was unable to speak, I started redesigning this whole room. I got a new table and I did not actually get it delivered and set up in time for the whole camera setup to be completed, so I couldn't really properly record. That'll happen again next week, and on Friday we will have the continuation of Worlds Without Number. So I am back, I can speak, and I'm ready to record again. But I will not leave you today without some feedback on your feedback to me, which is that a while ago I asked you for a bunch of book recommendations for sort of an OSR zero prep dungeon slash hex crawl type narrative campaign that we could do, and I got a lot of feedback from you, and I want to give, let's say, 3 examples that were pointed out and that caught my eye. There is a whole lot more, of course, that I have acquired because I am a collector, but I want to leave it at 3 and then maybe make another video down the line to point out a few more, and then a few more and a few more as they trickle in, because this is probably quite useful to some of you as well. I have compiled the titles now in an Excel sheet that I will link below here. I haven't fully finished the description of each and every one of the items yet. That will follow, but for now, if you want the list of the items, they will be out there. So I want to start with the chaotic descriptor table. This is from the Castle Old Skull series, which also has city-state encounters and the 1977 bestiary, all of which are very useful. But this one I think is pretty wild because it's a series of oracles, and perhaps one of the strangest series of oracles that I have seen so far. It's a D10,000 oracle table, and let me just show you a few of the entries. So just randomly opening a page, 1502 disguise artists, and then maybe we go to 6032 veteran lancers, and we go to 9770 sluggish. And that's the idea. You basically take like 2 or 3 combination of words and generate some really strange prompts. These were almost somewhat pedestrian for what's in here. Some of this you will need a thesaurus for, but that is basically the idea of the use case. Fortunately, the book gives you a bunch of examples. So let's say you want a dungeon encounter and you roll Ovate, Cecilius, and Fire Opal. That's already where you need to start picking up a dictionary, because Ovates, I have no idea what that is, but they're commonly regarded as level 2 druids, as noted in the Old Skull Adventure Generator, so some of this also builds up on other supplements. But it also tells you, if you don't have these sources, dictionary will tell you it's an Irish bard. I don't even know if Ovate is the correct pronunciation, or Ovate. And Cecilius is a name, Fire Opal is a thing, and then between those you can figure out a line of druids, and their high druid is Cecilius, and he holds aloft a glowing fire opal. So you can kind of create scenes with those roles, and I think that is a pretty interesting concept that I will definitely be trying out, just to generate a bit of scenery, flavor, plot hooks for a potential old school hex crawl kind of thing. I thought this was a very unique collection, or a unique approach to handling like an oracle table of writing prompts. Next up, one of the hard to find ones, the ultimate toolbox. This is unfortunately out of print, but you can get the PDF version, and it is definitely well worth it for the specific use case that I have in mind for it, which is to generate content on the fly, one roll, just figure something out. And it has a whole gamut of 7 chapters. And you can see here architecture and atmosphere, flag symbols, monuments, district quarters of a town or a city, rogue guild names, safe houses, locations, NPC encounters, festival activity, bard song names, performance titles, sunken ships. It's a crazy collection of just all over the place resources that can give you a lot of variation and input for your zero prep generation of a campaign. In that sense, it also works really well for multiplayer games at the table, because if your players just stray off the beaten path, you have a lot of resources to figure some stuff out. But like I said, getting a hold of the book is going to be difficult. And I think one downside is as well, there are quote-unquote only 20 results per table, because all of this is based on die 20 rolls, which means that potentially you will eventually run into repeat offenders if you use only this as a resource, let's say for names or things like that. But I've used this so far for like special names, and there is a large diversity of categories for special names. So it's like evil wizard names, evil rogue names, evil cleric names. That's already 60 names. So honestly, it'll carry you quite a way, especially if combined with like other resources like this. And finally, we have the Adventure Maker, a Game Master's Guide by Steve Young, who kindly provided the PDF version of this to me after seeing the video I made asking for input, because Steve watched the video and also happened to have written this book. And I immediately went out and grabbed the physical copy of it, because I am, well, very much in favor of having physical copies of everything. So this is a bit of a hybrid. First off, it's a lot of condensed good advice for how to build adventures, build encounters, and I would describe it as a fairly setting agnostic set of recommendations. So it's not just for fantasy campaigns or classic dungeon crawls. This is a recommendation that goes very, very wide. And it's not just centered around solo play. So a lot of this is also just how do you create an adventure for a party of players. So this is, in this sense, this is a book that goes in line a little bit with, let's call it the somewhat more famous older brother, which is this one. It is a DM guide for creating content for your party and giving it a system, giving you a way to do this efficiently and giving you some food for thought on how to create adventures that are satisfying experiences for your players. But it also has a bunch of tables, and there we already see the meat on the bone. Lots and lots of prompt hooks and all kinds of location tables. And it goes into very, very high detail and also into a very, very epic scale sometimes, where all of a sudden you go, oh, a world war needs preventing. Well, I'll do that on Friday. And again, it's kind of, sometimes you have to read into these prompts. If you use them for like random generation, you have to read them in a certain way. So if, for instance, one of the prompts is more of a modern day prompt from the vocabulary choice, you can just transfer the police vocabulary into the city guard, and then it makes sense again. So it's very, you can run yourself through a cyberpunk game the same way you can run yourself through a classic fantasy game with these tables if you use them for random content generation, which is primarily my focus when using this particular book. But like I said before, there's also a lot of other pieces of advice and ways to structure an adventure if you don't just randomly generate on the fly in there. Definitely worth a read, and definitely thanks for pointing this out to me, because I don't necessarily think I would have found this if the author hadn't provided me with a nudge in the right direction. I'm very happy that that happened. So that was my choice of 3 for the first video, just to give you a little something of a preview of the zero prep game that I am planning to run in the near future. Ironsworn will continue its run in the next week, and then we will hopefully find out what actually happened at the end of that battle that we thought we won and then we lost. And Worlds Without Number will continue on Friday. So apologies for the delay. My voice is back in working order. My setup is about to be back in full swing, and I can finally be a little bit more dynamic in front of the camera again, because I can stand up again. I have my work PC and everything off in a corner. I don't need to double my recording set with my working environment, so I like that separation as well. All in all, big improvement, cost us about 2 weeks of progress on the channel, but what are you gonna do? Sometimes things just happen. So thanks for your patience, for your understanding. I'll catch you next time, and bye for now.